Hi, my name is Lana and I'm excited to share with you some simple natural remedies. And today I want to talk to you about fomentations. But before I do that, I want to just talk a little bit about what is hydrotherapy. So basically, hydrotherapy is water therapy or water for healing. And when you apply cold and hot water to the skin, there is different forms of reaction that happens within the organs. So sometimes even when you have really bad stomach cramps, you can apply cold or hot to your abdomen and you will feel relief because the blood will start to go to the surface of the skin. Also, you can apply it to the feet, like if you have a congested headache or cramping again in your stomach. You can have hot on your feet, cold on your head, and it will draw the blood to your feet and start circulation happening and get that congestion from causing you great discomfort. There's different effects of cold and heat on the body and how long you use that for. So if you have short-term cold, it's going to cause stimulation and increase of blood activity. When you have long-term applications of cold, everything starts to become sluggish and it decreases your blood activity. Same with when you're using heat. Moderate heat, short-term, causes a stimulating effect, and long-term will cause a relaxing effect, a sedative effect. So what we want to do today with our fomentations is we're trying to cause a reaction, not so much sedative and relaxation, but we want to cause a pumping action and we want to bring some good oxygen and blood flow to the area. Hydrotherapy is used for many different things. It's used for bringing circulation to the body, it's for bringing oxygen, it's for pain relief and swelling. You can use it for increase of white cell count, which is very important because that's our fighter cells. Also, it's soothing for the nervous system. Even a tepid bath can cause the nerves to be settled. There is some cautions with hydrotherapy. Diabetics, especially insulin-dependent diabetics who have developed an arterial disease, which causes a decrease of flow in the blood of the extremities. And when you're adding the hot water to the extremities, it actually can cause a debilitating effect for those people. And it can actually kill your cells and lose oxygen to the area. So it is a contraindication for heating the extremities. If you are doing fomentation, something like that, sometimes you're able to do that, but you have to use a lot less heat. Also, when you have heat with a person who is diabetic, sometimes they have no skin sensation or it's very dull. Sometimes with diabetics, they can't feel the temperature on their skin. So be very cautious because you could burn them easily. So don't do it at all if you know they have an arterial disease or they can't feel sensation. Don't choose this form of therapy. If they are sensitive to heat and they can feel it, use your temperatures lower and be very cautious. So today again, I said we're going to talk about fomentations. So first I'm just going to show you an overview and then I'm going to take you and show you a demonstration. So right now, when you're gathering your things for a fomentation treatment, you want to make sure you have some gloves because the fomentation pads are very hot and you can burn your hands. Some lined gloves is usually very nice to have. You want to have sheets for covering the bed. Even you can prepare the bed if you happen to spill some water or something like that. You might want to have an old shower curtain or plastic garbage bags or something under the sheet to protect the bed or wherever you're doing the treatment. So you want to have some sheets for the base, sheet for on top. You want to have blankets to keep the person warm. You want to have fomentation pads. If you don't have fomentation pads, it's not a problem. You use a towel. You just take a thicker towel and you use a towel instead of a fomentation rag. So it's not really a problem if you don't have them. Myself, when I started doing this, I made my own fomentation pads. I had some flannel, I had some pieces of wool, and I just sewed them together, and these are so wore out. They're very thin now. This one obviously got burned, so I learned to wrap them with tin foil to protect them. So these are ones I had initially made, and I've just finished making these ones. And I made them because with this little cutout here for the shoulders, because lots of times people have problems with their upper back and their shoulders. So I wanted a way to get it over and get that heat going into this area. So these fomentation rags or pads are just layered with cotton and wool. So simple things. You're going to need some plastic bags, because what you do with the plastic bag is when you've put the fomentation on the person, you cover it with the plastic to hold the heat in and to not get your other coverings wet. You're going to need a bowl full of ice and cold water and a face cloth, because between changes of your fomentation pads, you're going to be applying a cold friction. You don't have to lay the cloth on the person and just make sure it's all laying there for a few minutes. You just quickly get your cloth, wring it, and frisk the person and cool off the area. You're going to need enough towels, because you need a dry towel for every change, because usually when you put the dry towel down and then you put your fomentation, it gets very moist. So a moist towel is going to cause that heat to be conducted to the skin quicker, and the potential for burning can happen. So that's why you usually have a dry towel for each change of fomentation. You also need some hand towels, some thin tea towels, face cloths, just to have extra, so that maybe a bony prominence on their shoulder or something on their back, maybe just the size of a coin, is getting hotter than everywhere else. Then you want to take a face cloth or a tea towel or a hand towel and just get it to that area that they're saying is hot. When you're using fomentations for the chest area, for pneumonia or bronchitis, or I've even done dyspepsia, different things like that where you need to apply it to the chest, make sure you have small cloths to cover the sensitive areas to make sure there's a little more protection there. Okay? So let's go over, we need water. Here's one more thing we need to remember. When you are doing a heating therapy, make sure you always have water on hand so that you can offer them water so that they don't feel uncomfortable or dehydrated while they're going through the treatment. Also, something you're going to need is some tin foil to protect your fomentation pads. So, before I show you what to do with this fomentation pad, I am going to just run through quickly the indications for using this treatment. And you know, it's not limited to what I'm saying here. It can be used for plenty of things. One thing, however, you never want to do fomentations for is where there's a blockage of circulation, carpal tunnel. Not a good idea, because you're going to cause a lot more pain. When there's a blockage, then what you're trying to do is make circulation happen. But a physical blockage will bring a lot more pain to the area instead of relief. So that's one point where you would not want to use this treatment. So indications for fomentations would be pain from your nerves or joints, muscle tension and pain, insomnia, to warm tissue in preparation for massage, to prepare for a cold procedure as a cold plunge, for chest congestion, coming on of a cold, or you have a cold, or bronchitis, or pneumonia, or pleurisy. Nervousness, you can do sedative fomentations to the spine. And also fomentations can be used just to induce sweating and to expel toxins from the system. Contraindications for using fomentations would be people who cannot feel heat, someone who's paralyzed, someone who's unconscious. Do not use it on the legs or feet of a diabetic. You wouldn't want to use this for edema or varicose veins, advanced vascular disease, people who have a tendency to bleed, or for stomach or bowel ulcers. Again, one thing I would like to say though, when it talks about contraindications being paralysis, I have used fomentations as part of a regime that I've done on people with paralysis. So incorporated in with skin brushing, massage, exercise, I used fomentations very cautiously. I made sure I touched the fomentation to my face first so that it wouldn't burn the person. I made sure that I put my arm underneath with the fomentation on top, making sure that I felt what they could feel. Always being very cautious. I did not have the same heat for that type of situation as I do for others. And I had great results. God really blessed. So there are times where you can use fomentations on someone with paralysis with your great caution, great caution. So now that I've talked to you about the indications and contraindications, I just want to show you how I would wrap and prepare the fomentation pad before going into the treatment room. So I'm going to take you over here with me to the sink. We're going to get some water on our pad. You want to make sure that you get the whole pad with water so that it's wet on all the layers, but we do not want it sopping. So we have to wring it out very well. We want it moist, but we don't want it dripping, because then you can really burn the person. So you can see I'm wringing the fomentation pad till it's not able to get any more water out. There we are. Now I'm going to bring it back over here. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll just bring my tin foil to myself over here. So you want to wrap your pad in tin foil. Roll it up. Shiny side in. Now, you can warm your fomentation pads in many different ways. You can use the method I'm using right now by wrapping it in tin foil. You can also use an oven. You can use, I like to use this roaster because then I can take it into the room with me and I don't ever have to leave the person I'm working with. So I would place it in my roaster, and I would turn my roaster on. I'd leave it for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes till it got nice and hot. Some people use their microwave. I've had to use a microwave when I haven't had anything else. Wring it out, actually put it in a plastic bag, then place it in the microwave, take it out, and use it to treat your person. Some people use boiling water in a pot, and they take the pot, put the ends of the towel in, and wring the towel on the corner ends. And then they just use it like straight like that from boiling water. But I prefer this method. I feel it's much safer and it's easier for me. So now that I've shown you how to prepare the fomentation pad, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the treatment room. So when you go in to work with somebody, I want you to make sure that you are always calm, that the room is neat, that you have things ready, all your things are gathered, that you pray with the person beforehand. Always ask them if they're comfortable with you praying. Many times they are very happy for your prayers. I also want to make sure that you, when you're in the treatment room, especially when you're working with someone on their chest or where they have to be exposed, make sure you try not to make them feel uncomfortable by making jokes or being silly. Sometimes when you're new doing this, you may feel a little uncomfortable because you have to work with them in areas that they're exposed. Again, you just want to make sure that you are helping the person you're working with to feel comfortable so that they can feel your love, they can feel Christ's love through you, and that they can feel that they have hope and encouragement when they're having this treatment. So now what I want to do is I want to take you into the treatment room and show you how to do fomentations. Hi, and welcome to our demonstration on fomentations. Today I'm actually going to do the full fomentation treatment because fomentations is something that I feel person really needs to pay attention to because you can burn the person. So I want to just show you as I'm doing the treatment that you have to keep communicating with the person you're working with and making sure that there's no areas that could be burning, because when you do fomentations the heat is so hot. Sometimes maybe someone has a bony shoulder or a little prominence in their back, and that can actually lift and have more heat in that area, so then you might need to put a face cloth there or another towel. So I'm just going to start right now with applying his fomentation. But first I'll just quickly explain to you that I do just have a bottom sheet to keep him comfortable. And then I have another sheet and a warm blanket because you want to keep the person very warm. And again, remember, when you do fomentations or any kind of hydrotherapy, you want to make sure that their feet are warm and that they're not chilled before you begin. So, okay, when you do fomentations, you need to make sure that you always remember you need quite a few towels on hand. So I have a nice little pile of towels and face cloths here. So you want to make sure that you are also being careful to drape the person properly so they never feel overexposed. So I have a double thickness of a thicker towel here. And so when I take my fomentation, the fomentations have been heating. Usually I heat them about 20 minutes at 300 degrees. And I like to use this little roaster. But you can use just want to make sure there's no excess. All right. So it's going to be very hot. So please be alert. If it comes through quite quickly, sometimes the towels are thinner than other towels. Is it too hot?
No.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
So you want to cover it?
I can feel it's going to be hot.
You can feel it's going to be hot? Okay, I will get ready. Are you hot anywhere? Okay. So you need a plastic to keep everything else dry and also to keep the fomentation warm. How are you doing? Is it too hot?
No, it's okay.
Okay. You want to make sure that you're always talking to the person, especially in the first minute. First minute, I've just got a little timer here. So I just want to make sure that I'm timing the fomentation pad. 3 to 5 minutes. So you want to be going 3 to 5 minutes. Are you still all right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not too hot anywhere on any one little, even like the size of a coin?
On my shoulder.
On your shoulder? So he said his shoulder is a little bit warm. So we want to just take and put a towel. Am I getting the right spot?
Like right on the top of the shoulders. Both sides.
Both sides?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you want to just make sure that you cover the area that they're talking about. Sometimes you can even take and just lift the pad a little bit and just flip it in the air and then put it back down, and that's enough. But that also loses your heat, and you want to keep the heat in the pad as long as you can. So 3 to 5 minutes is what we do. And what we're looking for is to draw the blood to the surface. And when on the first one you don't always see a pinking of the skin, but by the second and third fomentation you will start to see the skin start to pink. If the skin is looking rumply, like a little dimples, then it's way too hot in that area. then make sure that you take and put a face cloth there or another thin material to protect the skin there. Everything is still okay? All right. So I have done this treatment on people with dyspepsia and insomnia. And the lady, I would go to her house every evening about 9 o'clock and do her treatments onto her chest. I did about 6 changes though for her. So every time I'd go, I would do 6 changes. And by the time I was getting to the end of the changes, she was very relaxed and she was able to fall asleep. I would have to wake her to do the cold. So with that, it helped her to overcome the insomnia because it became a habit to go to sleep every evening at that certain time. And plus her dyspepsia after 3 weeks of treatment, and she had the dyspepsia for 3 years, that it overcame her dyspepsia. So God has simple remedies that work very well if we use them properly. So now we're going to take and remove the hot pad and we're going to ice. So I like to prepare my cloth. So you have to make sure you have a little bucket of ice water right beside you, ready to go. You don't need to wring your cloth too much. I have a little bin over here. You just quickly scruff. There we go. And we want to dry the skin because if the skin's not dry, you can risk burning the person. So because that towel, this towel is now moist from the fomentation. So now we want a secondary towel that's dry. So you want to work quickly, but not to make the person feel uncomfortable. So I have a little roaster here that I like to use to heat my pads because I can keep them right in the room with me. But you can heat them in, I've heated them in the microwave. You put them in a plastic bag first when you heat them in the microwave. I've heated them in the oven. I wrap them in tin foil and heat them in the oven. Sometimes I have them in tin foil in this roaster as well. Are you okay? And you cover them back up. How is it? Is anything too hot?
It's a little close to my ear.
Close to your ear? Right there, that one? Okay. Could feel the steam from it. Okay, set my timer. So in the first minute, you really have to pay attention. So make sure you're always talking to the person you're working with and making sure that they are not getting too hot in one spot or another. So how are you feeling? Is there any spots that are too hot?
It's good right now.
It's good right now? So as I was saying, you can use wrap your fomentation pads, you dampen them, but you have to wring them out to make sure that they're not dripping wet. Because it's the steam that you want. You don't want water to then also be going down onto the body. And the steam too, that's why we have a double layer. And sometimes if your towels aren't very thick, you might need to put 3 layers. So always be alert of how thick and how hot your fomentation pad is and how thick your towels are so that you don't get too much heat there on the person. And how are you doing?
I would lift it, yeah.
On which side?
Just lift the whole thing a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And then on the lower part of it.
Okay. I'm just giving it a little lift. And if that's not enough, I'm going to put another layer. How are we doing?
It's okay now.
Is it in your lower? Is it okay on the lower back?
The lower back's pretty hot, but it's okay.
It's okay? Okay, just be alert. This type of treatment is not something you would do on people who cannot sense heat. That being said, I have done it on people. I just want to check again because he was hot, so I just want to make sure. Are you okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, at any point that you need to interrupt me saying it's too hot, feel free. I have done this treatment on people who are paralyzed. A person who was paralyzed by stroke and did skin brushing, fomentations, massage, and exercising the limb. And when I first started with them, they couldn't feel the skin brushing, they never moved. But as I progressed, even a couple days, they could feel the skin brushing. And after the 3 weeks of working with them and exercising their leg, this person could actually push me off the bed when I would hold his leg back and have him push. So praise the Lord. It was really exciting to see that. But what I did when I worked with that person, because they couldn't feel, I just want to ask again, everything's okay? Is I placed my arm right beside theirs. So I don't know if you can see where I am here, but I put my arm right underneath with the fomentation. And I did not bring the same type of heat to the fomentation as I have with these ones. So they were not as strong heat. I put my arm underneath, making sure that it wasn't so hot for their skin to burn. I touched my face with it first to know that it's hot, but not scorching. So if I could touch my face, I wasn't concerned about burning him. So we need to actually remove this pad. All right, you ready? We're going to come with the cold now. You can see that he's perspiring a bit here, and that's good stuff. And we can see he's getting a little pink on his back, and that's what we want to see. And we can see that he didn't really wince with the cold this time, so we know it's starting to feel good when you get the cold. The first time never feels that great. So again, we want to make sure that the skin is dry. And again, I'm going to cover him with a new dry towel. And we're going to do 3 changes. You can do anywhere from 3 to 6 changes. But today, just for the purpose of showing you, we're going to do 3. So this is actually our last change going on here. So I'm going to show you the one that I had wrapped in tin foil. So if I was to put it in the oven, I would wrap it in tin foil. And the reason I wrap it is to keep the moist in and to keep it from burning my pads. So you can see lots of colors coming through my pads because my pads are made from different colors underneath. And is that, you know what, I have a feeling this towel is thinner, so I want you to be very alert. Is it coming through?
No.
And it being the last pad, it'll be the hottest. I can feel it just really hot here. Yeah, I'm going to get ready with another towel. I'm going to remove my gloves so I can work easier.
That's getting pretty hot.
Okay. I'm going to just put a whole nother layer underneath, all right?
Yeah.
Just going to fold this way. Okay, how you doing now?
That's way better.
Okay. Yeah, that one was quite hot. All right, is the heat coming through now, or did I get too thick? Good? Okay. Cover them up.
We'll just lift it on the left side there.
Okay. Okay, I can put something there if you need. I'll just fold the corner in. All right. So I was saying about the gentleman who had paralysis. I made sure my arm was underneath. So sometimes you can use a fomentation on people who are sensitive, but you have to be very, very cautious. And the heat is not so hot. So when someone has a hurt back or pneumonia, something like that, like I said, this is a fantastic treatment for that. It reduces inflammation. And so with this simple remedy, you can use it on the back, you can use it on their leg, you can use it on their arm, you can use it just on their shoulder. A lady had bursitis and she couldn't lift her arm at all. And I only did the treatments 3 times, 3 fomentations, 3 nights in a row. And she called me and she was so excited. She could lift her arm over her head and do her hair. She was really happy and pleased with the results. So I've even done this on people's hands when they had immobility in their hand. I've done just wrapping the hand, doing the same thing, 3 to 5 minutes of heat and 30 seconds of cold. Just check my time. How's it feeling? Mm-hmm. Good? Okay. I also want to make sure that when you're doing heat treatments, sometimes people can get really hot and they can feel thirsty. So make sure that you have some water nearby and a straw so you can help them to drink if they need a little drink. Are you thirsty? Would you like some water? I'm okay. You're okay? Okay. So we are ready to remove our last pad. Make sure you have something to protect your hands when you're doing the heat, especially. It's also nice for the cold. But sometimes I just bear the cold on my own hands so they don't have to suffer alone. So with the bringing of the blood to the surface and then sending it back down with the cold, you're actually getting the blood to bring oxygen to the area and more fresh blood, because the blood will then be forced back to be purified and then it'll come back on its next trip nice and fresh. So it brings healing. It can actually stimulate, well, tissue growth. I found I had a 25-year-old injury. You can see it's quite pink here. That's a good color. I had a 25-year-old injury in my shoulder that caused me a lot of pain, and I had a lot of headaches from that. And I had these treatments done to me for 3 weeks, and it took care of that shoulder injury. So I no longer have to worry like if I was to do exercising. As soon as I would start exercising, that shoulder would flare up and I'd have a headache for sure. So after that, I don't have that problem anymore, so I praise the Lord for that. So these simple methods work very well. I'm going to cover them back up. And then what I would do is I would have them either turn over on the table here, or if I had a place for him to rest, place a bed for him to go down and rest, I would take and have him go rest for about a half an hour to an hour, because that reaction time is very key on boosting the initial treatment. The white cell count will be higher. All the benefits are increased with reaction time. It's very important. And the person usually feels so relaxed that they want to have that rest. So again, just be sure that you take care not to burn the person, always asking, always communicating with the person you're working with. And you could see that he had some nice pink skin when I gave the last cloth. But if you were to put 6 changes, you would see his skin come even pinker. So thank you for joining me with this demonstration on fomentations. Be sure to watch the initial part of this video where I'm talking about the indications, which is when you would want to do this treatment, or the contraindications, the cautions that you may not want to use this specific treatment. So again, when you do have someone and you're working with them, make sure that you're always moving quickly, but not in a way that causes them to feel anxiety or rushed or nervous. Always make sure when you're working with them, you stay calm, you keep them nicely draped, you help them to feel comfortable so they're very relaxed, and the benefits of the treatment are far greater. So again, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.